Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you step by step how to do a, what are we calling this? Wild grasses and herbs and whatnot. It's going to be very silhouetted, very simple, and we're going to be using Pantone's Mocha Mousse, which is our 2025 color of the year for Pantone. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. Got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat tonight, so if you got questions on painting, you can ask those. Let's get started. All right, that's always so quick anymore. Intro. Fast. All right, I'm using a 9x12" canvas tonight. This is a mixed media canvas board. It was white. I didn't do anything to prep it special, except for just painted it with a little tiny daub of yellow oxide and some matte medium and some water, and just spread it around with a paper towel until it was very, very thin. You can also use really any yellow or very light orange would work for this, but I just wanted to tone the canvas to start. Dog already wants out of the studio, so we get off to a good start. All right.
Okay, I'm back.
All right, let's go over colors. There we go. I've got burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, unbleached titanium, and titanium white. And then I've got some satin glazing liquid down here at the bottom in case we need any of that for some glazing. So we've already kind of got our yellow on here. Well, we're going to use a sponge to kind of help get that sort of soft buffed color. That's one of the easiest ways that I know for beginners to do this kind of soft blendy background. We'll also use a few brushes for the flowers themselves. So you're going to want some round brushes, maybe an angle, maybe a long flat, and a round or a liner brush. If you don't want to use a liner brush, if you're like super new to painting and it really stresses you out to do lines for the stems of our flowers, just pick a color that of colored pencil that's kind of in the brownish terracotta type tone, and you can use those for your lines on our painting here. All right, so how's everybody doing? You doing good? How's
Yes.
chat? You good tonight?
Chat's doing good.
All right, let's get going here. I'm just gonna jump right in. I've got kind of a reference. I tried to print out the Pantone color, which is this one, but it's a lot lighter than what it looks like on my computer, so it didn't print out as saturated, but that's what we'll shoot for. So I think we're going to start there and just try to mix up this Pantone color. It's like a taupey brown, like a light-ish brown, though. It's not like super dark, so I'll leave that out here while we're talking. And I'm going to use my palette knife here and my acrylics. Did I go over my colors? I did, right? Yes, I did. Okay, just panic there for a second. Okay, very good. All right, let me move this over then so they can see the colors we're shooting for here. So we're going for this color right here, and maybe a little bit more dark version of it. So our main, it's kind of a reddish, slightly reddish toned brown. So when I'm picking, through my browns, my neutral browns, the two that I generally go for are the burnt umber and burnt sienna, the more reddish of that one being burnt sienna. So we'll start with that one as our kind of base for our Mocha Mousse. Probably don't need that much. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of burnt umber because it's not this red. So I'm going to get maybe 2 parts burnt umber or 2 parts burnt sienna to 1 part burnt umber, and we'll mix those two together. And then we'll just add some white and see what we get. And I think I'm going to add, instead of adding pure white, I'm going to add my unbleached titanium, which is kind of a warmish white. It's got burnt sienna and yellow oxide in it. and a little bit of black. So we'll use that. And I'm just going to use what's left on my knife here and mix it first over here and just see what we've got. See if the undertone looks close at all. Let me scoop up a little bit more of that. And just mix that together. Now that's going to be a little bit lighter than we want, but we're pretty darn close to what I'm seeing. So we'll just keep adding a little bit more at a time. Generally, I like to add my color to my white instead of my white to my color. That way you end up adding a lot of white. Plus I like to preserve my dark color in case I want it for shadows and things. So that way I have both versions of the color. Okay, so there's our thing. So looking at it there, it looks like this is maybe a little bit more pink. Yeah, so it's a little bit yellow, too yellow still. So let's go ahead and add just a tiny bit of Quinacridone Magenta, and that will make it more red, more rosy, more taupey maybe. Okay, so we've mixed that into that main color. I'm going to scoop that up and then just use what's left on my knife here and mix it into what we had down here. Now this is going to be a different color than this, obviously, because we didn't add the magenta to the one down here. So this one is more concentrated with the magenta, but we'll get an idea and see if we're a little bit closer. Holding it up, it looks good. And now I think I need to neutralize it. So we're kind of, I think, in the right realm, but I think it's too bright. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Ultramarine Blue to affect it. That's going to be much better. That will make it more taupey. Taupe tends to be kind of like a purplish toned brown, so it makes sense that we would use the burnt umber or the Quinacridone Magenta and Ultramarine Blue to make up kind of a purple tone with the two of those together with our browns. All right, so I think this is going to be it. Yeah, that's almost exactly what's on the screen. It doesn't look like much like it here because it's not as dark here, but if I lighten this up, I think it would be almost perfect. Now I still need to add the Ultramarine Blue to that color because that one did not have the Ultramarine Blue in it. I just added it to this one. Let's add a little bit of white over here. And then I'll put it on my thing here. We can see how close we got it. It could be a little bit more pink still, according to this, but it doesn't look very pink in my, like this is kind of misleading here. Printers don't always, you know, print it exactly. My printer is not the best, obviously. It's very washed out. But, yeah, that one, you can hardly see where it's been put on there. All right, it'll dry probably a little bit darker than that, but I think we're on the right track. Right there. And you know, we could go a little bit more rosy, but I'm not gonna, you know, worry about matching it exactly. But I think we're kind of in the right family here. So let's go ahead and use this. And I think what I'm gonna do is scrape this off and add I need to clean this palette knife off so it doesn't have all that white on it. And add my Ultramarine Blue to this one. So just a little bit to that. So we ended up with burnt sienna and Quinacridone Magenta and Ultramarine Blue and burnt umber. The burnt umber was second, so burnt sienna number 1, burnt umber number 2, and then these two are pretty much equal parts for number 3 so maybe 2 to 1 to half or something like that. Half each, something around there. I don't know. It's going to be, it's not like a perfect formula. You just have to kind of play with it.
What was that math again?
Whatever. I don't know. 2 parts. I'm saying 1 part to 2 parts, and I'm not saying like, it's not math per se. Okay.
It is. It's math.
Well, I know, but yeah, it's just fractions of.
Don't be afraid of it.
We're not trying to make our fractions go to a whole number necessarily. Just saying, if you have 2 parts of that, you're going to add 1 part of that kind of thing. Half of it, and then half again of those 2. Okay, so there we go. That one actually turned out a little bit more rosy, I think. It's probably even closer to that color. But it's darker, but I think that's pretty much spot on what I'm seeing on my computer screen. If I could put it on my computer screen and show you, I would, but. All right, so I've got kind of 3 versions of it here, and then I'm going to get some Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber, and go heavy on the Ultramarine. So just a little bit of Burnt Umber and some white. Make kind of a light brownish gray, and I still got this color in here, so it's mixing with it. So I want a little bit of a light blue to use in the corners of my, I'm shaking the table, in the corners of my painting here. So I want to mix that up ahead of time. And then let's just use that and grab some magenta. Whoops, did not mean to, made a mess there. Get the magenta, it's got a little bit of that blue in it. Mix those 2 together. Ooh, that's very, very bright. So let's add burnt sienna to that to tone down that purple, make it more neutral. The blue will help. We've got burnt umber in here too, but just so using all the same colors in these, you notice, but just smaller, smaller amounts of the burnt sienna mixture and more of these other 2 in these 2 mixtures. Okay, so now this is nice. I've got kind of a reddish tone. And then I think the last one I want is a kind of a orangey. I say reddish, that's more purpley. But let's go ahead and get some of that ultramarine blue. Or not ultramarine, what am I talking about? Magenta. It's touching the ultramarine, that's why I was mentioning it. It does have a little tiny touch of ultramarine, and I'm using this purple that I was just using, so. But there we'll have kind of a reddish, orangey tone to also use little touches of that. Okay, so that's nice. We've got a nice color scheme going here, and we'll use all these colors in our background. To get going here. If you don't have one of these fancy ones, you can use a regular kitchen sponge too, that's fine. It helps to have this kind of rounded edge, so you could probably take your scissors and kind of soften off the edges just to round them off a little bit if you want to try that. But I think the main thing is we're going to just try to kind of leave this middle area sort of yellowish and then gradually move out with our lighter colors. So I'm going to get some of this color here. It's already trying to dry on me. I'm going to get some of this lightest color. I'm going to just start buffing it in. And I've got my sponge slightly damp. You can see if I don't have a ton of paint on it, And I've kind of wet my paint down a little bit too. I can just kind of gently push that paint around. And I'm going to flip it over and use the clean side and go in the middle there. While that's still wet, I want to try to kind of buff off any edges. Now you got to kind of do this quickly because it's wanting to dry on me, so it's already kind of trying to streak. But I think that's good. So that's looking all right. Let's continue to go out from there. I'll probably need a couple of coats because you can see kind of where that light color kind of came off. It sort of washed off some of the color there, but that's okay. I'm not worried about it. We'll do 2 or 3 coats on here, and by the time we're done, we'll be good. All right, so let's go kind of with this more kind of mauve-y, orangey red. Ooh. And just keep moving in circles. If you kind of keep it going in circles, it sort of can't form any hard edges, and having that sponge helps too. You can also add a little glaze if you want to. This is kind of almost like a, you can see where that canvas didn't, got some weird scratches there. Didn't want to accept the paint right there. That may be coming from my sponge. I'm going to get a little bit of that darker mauve now. So each time I go out a little bit farther, I'm going to get a little bit darker color. And if this inner part is starting to dry too much, it might start lifting. And so if it does that, if it starts kind of doing this to you, you can just leave it, let it dry completely, and then come back in with another coat, and it'll cover after the second go around. Okay, but the main thing is I'm not loading up this with a lot of paint at all. Just very little paint and very light touches. I'm not having to press down very much at all. Just kind of letting it skim and just catch the canvas texture. And if you're using a canvas that's really textured, you're going to get a lot more of an effect than this. Even you'll see like the lines of the canvas kind of showing up and that kind of thing. But this is really fun. It's and one of the things that's nice about it is if you get too much, you know, acrylics just in general, if you go too far, you can always paint over it, you know. So if you cover up too much of your yellow, you can always just come back in and add more yellow later. Start from the center and move out, and push back the dark color, go on top of it, layer as many times as you want. There's no problem with that with acrylics. You're not going to lift off any bottom layers. As long as the layers dry in between, you can layer it as much as you want. So don't ever feel like a panic if if you're painting it and it just doesn't look right yet. Well, it's just not finished yet, so it's not done until you're happy with it. So just keep messing with it and keep adding layers until it gets to the level that you like. Okay, so now I'm just adding that light blue here in the corner. I added a little bit of this purple to it just because I felt like it was a little bit too different, but this is looking really nice, isn't it? Very easy. Much easier than using a brush, I think. For something like this, I don't think I would try to tackle it with a brush. It would be a lot of blending and pretty difficult to do. It'd be kind of an advanced lesson, and I want to keep it as simple as I can for you guys. So this is a really approachable way of doing it. Let's go ahead and get some of that kind of mid-tone color and maybe add some of that in here. Okay, so I think we're kind of approaching where we're going to have to let it dry because everything is starting to try to get kind of sticky, feels kind of funky, and not wanting to blend for me at all. So I'm going to maybe pass this off to Mark, let him take it and dry it for me. And
I'm gonna do that.
Thank you. Will you rinse out my sponge too while you're at it?
Do it.
Thank you.
Turn around, come
Okay. Well, I'll need it when I do that next layer
Try
too.
it here.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Let me do this. So while he's doing that, I'm gonna clean off my palette and move these around so that I can access them later. So I'm gonna kind of push that over here, and I don't have a ton of that left, but I can scrape up what's there. Maybe put it right here. I'll just put them kind of across the top here, and that way I can clean up. Clean up my palette and have it ready to use for other stuff. Let me scoop that off though. I don't want that mixing with my paint. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to use a dirty towel if I can find one that's already kind of dirty and get it wet here. And this paint's pretty wet, so I'm just going to wipe it off. I'm not going to use my scraper because my scraper will get all gummed up with paint. There we go. Nice thing about these glass palettes is they're very easy to clean in between. I get asked about the Stay Wet palettes a lot, and you can make your own Stay Wet palette. If you don't want to invest in the really expensive ones, you can just use parchment paper with paper towel underneath, and use like a Tupperware piece that is big enough to set a tray in, or even just a Tupperware piece with a good sealable lid. You can put your palette paper inside that, or your parchment paper, I should say. The thing with that is those Stay Wet palettes, they can get moldy, and they can also make your paints really runny if you leave them in for multiple days. So what I used to do when I was trying to seal my palettes and keep my colors, especially if I've mixed a special color and I wanted to use it again later, is I would put it on a foam plate. And I know I stopped using foam a while ago because I kept getting comments about, environmental stuff. So I'm totally legit. But, it is an option if you want. You can use a foam plate, put another foam plate on top, and put it in a gallon-sized bag. And it'll stay fresh for up to a week like that. I just spray it with water and seal it up, and it's good to go, and it'll hold your paints indefinitely. You can even put it in the fridge if you're concerned about it molding or anything. But I've never had it mold on a foam plate, so anyhow. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is spray this with water just so that it's kind of activate, ready to accept paint. It'll kind of help it a little bit. And I'm going to get a little bit of yellow, just a little bit of this yellow oxide, which is the base color, and some white.
So I think we need to have a disclaimer out there.
What?
That tonight there may be a secret ingredient in the water spray.
Before, my water was empty, so I filled it with my
Water from your water bottle.
water from my water bottle, but I forgot that I had a Coke in there earlier, so there's probably a little bit of Coke residue in my water.
So
tonight.
that's what's going to make this painting even more
Even
awesomer.
better. Yes.
We're not sponsored by Coke,
Nope.
Coca-Cola, but
Do drink
reach
it
out to us.
occasionally. You might just accidentally have one setting off, some product placement.
Exactly.
All right, so you can see now going over this with that kind of whitish color, it's kind of toning things down. It's going to kind of help smooth out any borders that look rough. And I'm just gonna basically do the exact same thing that I already did. And this time it's gonna really smooth out. And I think we should get a nice finish on it. Using that kind of more reddish tone, maybe get a little bit of that mid-tone color. There we go. And you really have to do the whole thing again, because if you just try to do a certain section, you're going to end up with this where, you know, you're not covering everything. So we're just going to do it one more time. Go over everything. It's not going to hurt anything to have another layer on here. This is kind of softening off all these rough edges. Blending it all in. Right. And then our last one is that blue. So just add that blue with a little bit more of that purple. My sponge is crumbling apart in places here. Watch for that. It's old. Okay, so this ended up being a little bit softer in general. I think I had some of that lighter color in. It's a little softer than the original, and so if we wanted to go a little bit darker, we could mix up a little bit darker color. But I think I like it. You can see that little bit of white that's still in my sponges, kind of trying to peek out here and there. I got into the middle area where I didn't want to go. Let me try to fix that. Okay. Going back to that blue. Okay. You kind of have to do this quickly too. I'm noticing that this is drying pretty fast. Having that water sprayed on it was good, so I'd probably do that first on that first layer, and I think that will help it give you a little bit more drying time. You could even add a little bit of the glazing medium to it as well, because that will also help with the drying time. And I'm not worried about this because I'm going to be adding shadows and things in here, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. There's a little bit of a area there that I'm not loving, but I think I think I'll be able to fix it in the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off my palette one more time, and that will give us a working space. So again, if you get this done and you don't like it, you can, do it again. Do it as many times as you need to until you get the layers adjusted. All right, I'm going to clean off my hand because this is bugging me. I've got paint all over on it. How's it going? Is the chat doing well tonight? Everybody
Yes.
doing good?
Yep.
Good.
We've got our unusual suspects
Nice.
attending.
I like
We've
it.
got some people from the Netherlands,
Ooh,
around Oak Island also.
what?
So I'm trying to get some
Treasure
insider
hunter? Do they know?
get some insider information, but they're not giving me any.
Is the Ark of the Covenant
They're
buried there?
They're
Do they know?
pretending. Yeah, they're pretending like they don't know. But
They're pretending like they don't know.
Mhm.
I know. That's what I've always said. Like, if Oak Island, if they like buried something as important as the Ark of the Covenant, don't you think somebody would have told somebody, like, hey, that's where it is, and then like maybe bought the land so that nobody could dig it up? I don't know. That's my thinking, but that's
it was the place to bury your treasure back in the day.
I guess so. I mean, I'm not saying something didn't go down there. I just...
They had a good advertisement.
All right. Yeah. Tuesday night, Oak Island. Sorry, you know, it's Oak Island season again. We're gonna talk about it.
People like, what the heck?
What is Oak Island? What are we talking about? Okay, so this is a little bit dark looking at my reference. Because I want to have room to make my silhouettes. I want like 3 layers of my silhouettes. So I want like a like a light-ish dark tone. So it's going to have to start probably here. I want my first layer to be here, my second layer to be probably here, my third layer to be, you know, in this darker region. So I need my background to kind of be in that ish region, and right now it's like in this region of maybe that. So 1, 2, I might be okay if I do my darkest parts. I'll just have to go a little darker on these outer edges. This middle part will be fine, but I might try to just controlled get a little bit of my yellow here. We'll see, this may be a mistake. This is not something I would recommend doing, but we'll see if I can pull it off. I don't know. I guess I could use my sponge too, but I don't want it to get out of control. So I think I'm just going to try to, there we go. Just kind of go over very lightly. You can see how it's kind of leaving some texture there. That's good. Okay, it's working. Just kind of a light glaze right in the middle there. Just pushing that back. I think when I did my second layer, I came in too much there. So, okay, that's making me feel a little bit better about things. A little bit, just a little bit lighter. All right, so now we're just going to create 3 layers of overlapping herbs and grasses and things. My reference photo is not necessarily what we're going to end up doing. We're going to be closer to something like this, maybe a little bit darker in our final, like this has 2 layers instead of 3. So I want a 3rd layer that's darkish, and I'm going to use these kind of silhouettes here alongside the one that I created. It was kind of just I don't have good Photoshop skills. I readily agree that I could do it. I know how. I just don't like it. And so I get lazy and I'm like, that's good enough. We'll use that. I can figure out how to paint it, you know, from there. So that's kind of, if you're ever like, why is the reference photo so much worse than the finished painting? That's why, because I'm just being lazy and I don't want to have to make a completed reference photo that is fully detailed. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my liner brush here and some of the burnt sienna. So I ran out of my color of the Mocha Mousse, so I'm just gonna mix up some more of it here. I kind of have it there, but that's not dark enough. I guess I have it there. I don't know what I'm doing. I have it right there. What am I talking about? I don't have it. It's sitting right there. It just needs to be lightened, but we'll do a mid-tone version. And then, so I want to shoot for a color that is in this region here. So I want this color to be light enough that it is a silhouette, but it's a distant silhouette. I think that's going to be close right there. Okay, we'll try that. It is going to dry darker too, so I can keep that in mind. And I'm going to just keep it very, very simplified in the background here and just do a few Yeah, see, so you can see it's like disappearing there. I can see it against this dark here, but I can't see it against anything else. So I'll do some in the middle here. I'll be able to see it in the middle. And this is where your pencils can come in. So just kind of pick one that you can see against this background. And once you get your stems on there, we'll just use a brush, and really doesn't matter. Just something that, maybe a small round or something. And I'm going to use that same color. And I'm going to just create some little silhouetted marks. Now, if I really can't see it, I'll go a little bit darker. I don't want it to be, this is kind of my back area, so I don't need it to be super dark. And I can grab some of this lighter color too. So in these dark areas, might maybe go lighter instead of darker, just so that it's visible. There we go. It's up to you. There we go. And then maybe this one will do the like leafy thing, like a fern or something. This is the fun thing about this, is you can kind of just make up your own scene here. Get some pictures of ferns and things, silhouettes, make them, you know, into a silhouette, black and white or whatever, and then just use those shapes to inform your painting. I'm rolling this round brush to a point, and then I'm just going to set my brush down and kind of plop it down to create these leafy shapes. And not really worried too much about how they look. They're kind of disappearing a little bit into that background, especially on this darker side, which is nice. And we're going to be layering over the top of these, so I don't want them so dark that when I layer over the top they're going to really like stand out a lot. So it's just kind of a play between just dark enough to see against that background. So depending on, you know, how dark your background is, you'll maybe go darker or lighter than I have mine. They'll all be a little bit different. Okay. Just go ahead and keep going until we get all the way to the bottom. Nice. I like it. All right, and then this one here, I'm going to go a little bit lighter and do our little kind of spiky. This is kind of a thistle kind of flower. I have one right here, actually. They're kind of purpley blue. So we'll use that as our kind of model. And the little edges have all these little spines coming off of them. And the nice thing about silhouette is you don't have to really do a ton of detail. We're just trying to get the kind of basic shape in there. Okay, that looks good. And let's see, maybe like right in here we'll do kind of our tallish wheatgrass, and I'm going to keep it really small. So these ones I kind of did bigger blobs. I'm just going to keep these really tiny little seeds. Grass. I have it crossing over right there. I don't know what I was doing exactly. And let's go ahead and maybe one more right here. out where those stems are coming from. And call that good. Okay. Go ahead and put that stem in that one a little bit more. Okay, that looks good. Right, so you get the idea of kind of what we're going for here. So let's go another shade darker now. So I'm going to get that mixture that I had here. And at the end we can add other colors to bump it up, so we can add pinks and blues or whatever else we want, yellows to highlight. But for this part, we're just trying to get sort of some layers of value in. And I will be talking about values and that kind of thing. This weekend I'm doing my next installment in my beginner series with my patrons over on Patreon. I've got a $5 tier that has been going through beginner basics, and we've done color theory and brush control, water control, basic acrylic painting supplies, that kind of thing. And yeah, there's the Angela Fine Art at patreon.com. Or you can go to my website and you can see all of the different things on my website. The reference photo to this is all the reference photos to all the paintings that I'm due, and the finished painting are all on my website, so you can use those if you're painting along. It's really good to have. There's also links to Patreon where you can get the traceables, and then also shows you the different Patreon tutorials that I've got, hundreds literally of Patreon tutorials that I've done since 2017, since I've been on Patreon, and the beginner series is the newest one. Next month we're going to be starting on a new drawing series, so we'll be doing some fun stuff. Are we doing side dog cam? Oh. 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 Cute. He's the cutest pupper.
She's all snuggled up in his bed right there.
Yep, so snuggly. So hard being that cute. He had a rough day yesterday. He had to go to the groomer. They did unmentionables to him. It's never fun. He always kind of comes home with a glazed look on his face. You don't want to know what happened, Mom.
That's awesome.
All right, so we're going one shade darker. I don't know if this is dark enough. We'll see. And I think I'm trying to decide which ones I need to make darker. So I think I want the darkest ones to be this big one here, and maybe the flowers down here, and maybe these leafy ferns over here. So I think these kind of grassy bits here, I want these kind of little, and it's helpful if we overlap and we can see the difference, which it looks like we can. Yay. And this is where you can also come in with another pencil and do your lines for the stems. The stems are going to be the hardest part of this. I understand, and for some people they just are really difficult. I do have a tutorial on YouTube that I did a few years back about line work, and we did some icy, it's black and white. It's got icy Queen Anne's lace, very similar to this actually in black and white. And basically the whole lesson was about line work and how to control a liner brush and stuff. So that one I would highly recommend to check out if line work is something that you want to work on and have struggled with. It's beginner series number 1 Beginner Basics. If you go to my website, it's probably the easiest place to find it. Beginner Basics #1. And it's, I can't remember what it's called exactly, but it's a black and white. You'll see it as soon as you put in Beginner Basics, it'll show up. All right, so just trying to get very thin lines here. And there we go.
Frosty floral.
Frosty floral, thank you. I'm going to add a little bit of this to my thing here just to kind of add another layer to that. Looks good. I like it. All right, so I've got this kind of overarching thing back here, and I think I might want to make it lighter. So let me get some of this lighter color and see what it looks like if I put that in back there and maybe make it kind of really translucent with that lighter color and see what happens. So adding some glaze to make it more transparent. And I think I'm just going to kind of try to maybe make it coming out right here across. It's not going to show up. All right, so can't do that. Let's go a little bit darker then. And then as it passes over into this darker area, I'm going to have to make it darker right there. And then do my stem a little bit darker. Okay. I can do another one up here. So it's just a matter of layering and, you know, knowing your background colors. That one is almost invisible. I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit lighter. That way it'll show up. If I go darker, I can do it that way too, but I'm going to try to get it lighter. I want it to be, I want to have a little bit of the lighter colors back here. Okay.
Got a question.
Mm-hmm.
They would like to know that what size brush would they use for the thinner stems?
This one was a 2-liner or like a 1-liner, just a very thin liner.
Okay.
That's what I would use. I'm using the 2 round, but I wouldn't try to do it unless you have good, you know, control over the amount of pressure you're putting on the brush, because a thicker brush like that, you could pretty easily go pretty thick with your line. So I'm cheating and using the thicker brush, but I wouldn't use this brush probably unless you can control it. All right, there's kind of like a dandelion flower here. I'm not sure I want to do the dandelion, although I kind of like it. So let's go ahead and put it in and see what we think. And again, it's kind of lighter. Then I'll sort of switch to the darker in the middle here. And just think about our light source being maybe in this middle part, so whatever's kind of facing it or close to it would be lighter, and then getting darker as it goes down here, maybe not getting as much light. Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah, that turned out good. Okay, I'm liking this. And then we'll do this nice dark fern over the top of this, and I'll push that back. Okay, very good. Isn't this fun? All right. So we could do something. I think I might leave that open right there, just for, you know, flow. Like in the picture, that one is a little taller than I put it, but we could either do a second one that's a little taller right here, but that might crowd it out. So I think I might just leave it. We'll see. And we can do these leafy ones off to the side here and maybe bring it up a little higher, or I'm not sure.
We should
Or I
have
might
done,
bring this one up a little higher. That's probably what I'm going to do. What?
we should have done our drinking game this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Why?
like every time you said leafy or something.
That was actually pretty fun last week.
That was funny.
That was. I enjoyed that. If you were here for us last week and we painted a cocktail. And
All I
drinking
know
game.
is that our audience need to get out there and do some crazy stuff.
Why? Because nobody
like,
was.
People are like, oh, no, never went ziplining, never did this. And we had to resort to.
Are you surprised? These are my people. I am not. I'm not a daredevil either.
At one point, we had gone to the bathroom that day just so someone could take a break. But it was fun.
That was fun. It was kind of a fun, like almost like a get to know you game. We played the Have You Ever, or I have never have I ever, whatever game. All right. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna kind of throw a little highlight on some of these, and just kind of letting this dry. Let's add some of these kind of buttercups, or let's do this. That'll be either that or this over here. It'd probably be a good thing to add. Maybe this one that's got these little buds hanging off of it. That's kind of nice. So we'll do the same kind of lightish color over here that we did over here, because that worked pretty well over here. So let's go ahead and do, now that I brought that way up, let's do it like right in here. We'll do kind of something like that. Yeah, like that. Okay. Just gonna plop my brush down and then kind of do a little stem. Plop it down. And as I get down, I'm gonna make them a little bit bigger. It's nice. And I'm going to go a little bit darker in the middle. Go back in and kind of add some of that darker color. Maybe use a more neutral color so it's not so obvious. Doesn't have to be, you know, see how that one kind of fades out into this one. Use a little bit. But obvious, and then we'll just do some leaves coming up for the stem, like that. All right, I like that. Fun. Okay, so let's go darker now. Well, I kind of really only did this one as darker, didn't I? Kind of got sidetracked. So let's go ahead and do these leaves over here with this kind of mid-tone dark like this. And I'm going to put it in kind of in between these two. And do kind of like eucalyptus leaves almost. Yeah, that's nice. That's a good tone for it. Right darkness to match this one over here. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of do sort of some, it's kind of like jointed And then there's a leaf at each joint. It kind of comes in. Okay. Yeah, I like it. Okay. And then maybe I'll put a couple more out here. Just something like that. Okay. Nice, and then let's go ahead and do some of these kind of mid-tone-ish colors. Maybe not as super dark, but sort of a little bit darker than this. So I want to leave room for those flowers to go here, the fern to go here. We'll have this large, let's go ahead and kind of draw in where I'm going to put the large flower, because that'll help inform where we put the rest of this. So I think I'm going to put it kind of right in here. And this will be kind of my center here of it. There. And hopefully it won't cover this one up too much. It'll cover up to about right there, so we'll cover part of it. But I think I can kind of help adjust around it. Maybe make this side a little bit heavier. Maybe bring these up a little bit higher here. Okay, so that looks good. So let's do our flowers down here. So we've got plenty of room for our flowers, and we've got these little seed pods here that are these, like this. Oops. The poppy seed pods here, down in here. It's almost the right color too. Look at that. Could almost just put it in there. So let's do that same kind of dark-ish, but not super dark color, and then our little light on top. Go a little bit darker if it doesn't show up. Here we go. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. And then we'll throw in another one right in here. Maybe one coming over right here. It's got this little kind of ridge right here on the stem. There we go. And go a little bit darker right here. Maybe do one down here that's facing down. And make that a little bit wider. I don't love how that's all three coming into the same spot there, but maybe see if I can wipe that off. I'm not sure if I can do it without. Oh, it's coming off good. Okay. Here. Okay. So let's do our one here, and then we'll move this one out. Something like that. All right. Not my favorite here, but we can always add some leaves and things to try to kind of hide it too. We can put some grassies or add some things to help kind of blur. If you've got something like that that's like really standing out and you're just like, I don't love it, just a lot of times just adding some little distraction around it helps, then it kind of blends in and it's not as noticeable. So that worked pretty well for a solution, I think. I'll add some light colors to just a little bit of the seed pods there, give them a little highlight. Tuck those back in. Here, I'll show you my little kitty cat one. He's cute. Little kitty cat vase. It's got dried flowers in it. So most of these are from my garden. Well, about half, 50-50 maybe. This one is kind of an interesting one that might be cool to do. This little kind of interesting little shaped seed pod thing there. I'm not sure what that is, so if we've got room for it, maybe we'll try to tuck it in somewhere. Let's go ahead and do our dark guy here and some of our kind of daisy type flowers. And I'm going to use my darkest color for this, so no light color added to this at all. I take that back. It did have a little bit, I think, maybe of the light color originally, but we haven't added it lately. All right, so I want to do a ton of little stems out from the middle, and they all need to kind of originate and kind of thicken up sort of where they meet up. But then I want them all to be pretty thin coming out. But they should crisscross each other a little bit and go out into kind of a semicircle shape, right? And then from there, I'm going to just dab little dots on the ends of these. And different distances away from the center, because some of them will be coming towards us even, but I think this one we're kind of seeing from the side, fully from the side, so we're not really seeing any coming at us. If they were coming at us, then we would see more of a circle probably. Be a little bit different shape, but and I want to overlap them quite a bit so that oh, that looks good. I think I'm pretty close to where I want to be there. Go a little bit darker in the middle. A little higher right here. Right. Kind of wish I'd gone a little bit lower with that now that I'm looking at the placement, but not much I can do about it right now. So we can put some flowers in down here and that'll help. So I'm going to put in some daisies and I'm going to do them darker than what I have in the picture. In the picture they're kind of whitish, but I think I'm gonna do them darker, and I can always add more white to them later. pushing from the outside in, pulling in to create those shapes. There we go. All right. And let's go ahead and do our ferny shape. Ferny, that's a word, right? I kind of think I want something a little bit dark up higher. Everything dark is kind of down low, so I might do something like this. The ferns kind of have that center line, and then they have the things coming off from that. Okay. I like it. Do another one over here. Trying to think if I want a third one, but I might just leave it like that and keep the balance up higher. All right, so we're getting close. Now it's kind of just a matter of picking and choosing if we want to do any more, you know, anything more up high or anywhere else. Might do a little bit darker right there. Blend that in. Okay. Let me think. So do we want anything up here? Or do we like that kind of flow? I think it's all right. Let me add, I think I want to add some highlights to these though. I feel like they're a little too dark. So I'm just going to add some of my highlight color to the tops of these just to soften them off a little bit. Even though they're my dark color, they don't have to be all dark. And again, kind of keeping the light part toward the top and part kind of facing the light. And then for sure on this one here. Because they're supposed to be white daisies, so even if they're dark, they're not going to maybe be that quite this dark. Okay. I feel like I just want something up in here. This just, it feels a little bit too, I don't know, So I think I might do this over here, maybe. I don't know. Need to place it just right. I just wish I'd move that up just a little bit more. I think if it was right here, I wouldn't have this problem. This is the place too where I can take a photograph of this. Like if I get kind of stuck and I'm thinking I want to add something, but I'm not exactly sure what or where, you can take a photograph of it and then digitally draw and add things that way, and that helps kind of picture things without altering it right away. Maybe we'll do this little guy that's got the little pokey bits. I think that would be simple enough, not too out there. Let's just put it right in here, and I'm gonna kind of put it behind him. Like that. And it's just kind of like a kind of a thick part, and then yeah, that's nice. Okay, perfect. Just a little something there. Light, it's not too much. It's kind of in that lightish range. And I think I might just do that. I don't know that I'm going to even add a second one. So, okay, I think that's good enough. All right, then we definitely need splatters. I mean, this calls for splatters, doesn't it? And yeah, I'll use the kind of mid-tone for the splatters. Maybe a little bit of the dark. With splatters, I'm using a fan brush, add lots of water, and then just a touch of the unbleached or the glazing medium or some sort of medium that'll help the paint stick. When you add a lot of water, especially to heavy body acrylics, they will not. They're mostly more pigment than binder, and so if you water it down too much, you lose the binder effect, and they just kind of float. So, okay, let's
clear the area of anything valuable.
Yes, clear the exactly. Oh, that's nice. Good, good, good. Very nice. All right, and then let's add some lighter splatters for this darker areas. I think that adding a couple will be good. A couple different values. Again, I'm holding the brush flat over the canvas about, I don't know, about 6 inches away or so, something, right about there, and tapping straight down towards the canvas, and that is flicking the paint down. You got to think about the momentum of the swing, not where the brush is, pointing. A lot of times I see people doing like this and flicking it, trying to get the paint to fall on the canvas. It's going to go straight that way if you're tapping it that way. So hold it over it and tap straight down towards your canvas where you want the paint to go. It'll go in a nice little splatter pattern for you. And if you've got enough water in it, it'll come right off the brush with barely a tap. So.
Is it hot in here? You over there talking about momentum of the swing, and geez, science and math, and engineering. Whew.
She's talking physics.
How you doing?
What? Forget about it. Well, I must have put my hand in that. I see a little smudge there, but I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so there we go. Fun, right? And again, you can always go back in, add more pinks or more blues or whatever. But this was kind of the idea that I had envisioned. Couldn't quite exactly make it work with the photoshopping, but yeah. So kind of fun. If you go to Hobby Lobby, you'll see about 6 or 7 paintings in this style. Most of them have the background white. They're more like this, with maybe a darker tone added to it. But this is a really popular thing right now in decorating, is this neutral palette, decorating with the herbs and things. And so this is kind of my version of it, using that Pantone color of the year. I thought, yeah, we definitely nailed that color. It definitely has that vibe. So I really hope you guys try this. Hope you liked it. Let me know what your favorite part was, if you like the background technique or if you like the layering. Which one of these herbs is your favorite? But yeah, I like how it turned out. I think I'm going to make that one a little bit darker just to kind of help balance there's so much dark at the bottom, it feels heavy down here. So I think I'm just going to make this one a little bit darker. Yeah, there we go. Draw some attention to it. All right, I think that's it, guys. Wow, we're just over an hour. We did good tonight. Do I get bonus points for Oak Island bonus points?
Man, that is awesome. I might have a snack.
Mark doesn't have to run in there right after the show and hurry up. Maybe, hey, are you going to clean my brushes tonight? Ooh, I think I deserve some brush cleaning.
I think you deserve that. I think you do. Especially angular momentum.
Exactly. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'd love to have you part of our crew, and you can, again, find the reference photo and the finished painting will be up on my website by tomorrow with the traceable in case you want to trace these out. I have videos about tracing too. All of that is on my website. So if you are looking for a subject to paint, go there and check it out. It's thankfulart.com. Why don't you put up the website link there for people, thankfulart.com. And yeah, check it out. And we've got literally every single tutorial that I've ever done is on my website, easily accessible. If you click on that tutorials tab, you'll see them there and you can search for them by subject and date. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.